All right, guys, got you guys' Q&A for the week. We had a couple really good questions. I want to start out by saying, listen, the fitness and health and strength community has 1,000 opinions and a million voices, and there's so much on every topic. So let's understand that this is coming from my point of view, what I've worked at with 10 years, thousands of athletes, what I've seen work, what I haven't seen work, and the way that the things have worked for me. So by all means, you guys can take anything I say, and you can go compare that to any other person in the fitness world. It might differ greatly. It might be close. It might like be as far away from what they said as possible. But this is what I've seen. It's been successful for me and for the gym in the space. So couple good questions though. We got accessories for handstand push-ups, strict handstand push-ups to start, and another question about gymnastic skills. So I kind of want to bind both those, and let's talk gymnastics for a little bit, because gymnastics is one big thing that a lot of people, when they come into CrossFit or into fitness, that's usually like the lagging area. Unless you're a really small person or light, then gymnastics come a lot easier. So let's start out with that. For a lot of you guys that have gymnastic questions or say, hey, I want to get this or that, the uncomfortable thing to address in the room is body weight. All right, body weight, being overweight, especially having more body fat percentage than muscle. So we have that muscle density and that body fat metric on the in body, and that's just the reality of, if you have too much body fat compared to muscle, your ability to create force in those positions is going to be really hard. I've done CrossFit as light as 202 pounds, and I've done it as heavy as 275 pounds. So I've had a 73-pound weight difference in CrossFit, and I can tell you it's a drastic difference. Now, that being said, I've been able to rep out gymnastics, both, bar muscle ups, ring muscle ups, handstand push-ups, strict handstand push-ups at 275 pounds, because I had the prerequisite strength from years of lifting and years of doing those movements, so that before I put on the weight, I was strong enough to do it. But that's a big factor, especially when you're new. When I was new, I struggled a ton. Being over 200 pounds is a big deal. And it's especially being 200 pounds and being taller, it's a big deal. It's a hard road for a lot of people. And so that's one big part of it. And again, the prerequisite strength, if we were to break down gymnastics, no matter what the movement, it has to be, am I strong enough to get through the range of motion to start? And a lot of that means initially we work on developing strength. For example, this last week, we had the 2-rep strict pull-up. If you can't do a strict pull-up, then we work on volume. The reason we do volume is this idea of hypertrophy. The more times we can put a muscle through a range of motion, the more times we can add stress to that movement, the more we're going to develop the muscles, and not only the muscle contractional strength, but also the muscle size because of the repetition. And then over time, we develop that strength, and all of a sudden, we're starting to get closer and closer to movement. So step one is we have to get some strength development there, and we have to get prerequisite strength. So the question was for strict handstand push-ups. Some of my favorite movements for these, I really have 3 big ones, and when it comes to lifting. Dumbbells are awesome for this. Dumbbells take us from the deepest range of motion, so if we can develop strength from here, that when we get here, right? So the handstand push-up is going to be here. Our range of motion isn't from the shoulder, where a dumbbell comes from here. So if we can develop the strength from a deeper point, we get stronger as the leverage increases. So the more we get up the range of motion, the easier movement gets. Same as a squat. Once we get out of 90, finishing a squat is a lot easier. So a bottom-up press is a really good one. We have the kettlebell that's upside down, and whether it be light or heavy, whatever, obviously most people start light, but being able to grip that's 2 parts, because it can develop some strength because we're moving weight. But the other part is the stability factor. And a lot of people in gymnastics, when we have that stability factor, it's going to not allow us to produce as much strength because of the way the body works around stability. It doesn't produce as much force on an unstable object. So being you, if you're shaky, you don't produce as much force. So bottom up's really good. Arnold's press is bar none one of my favorite lifts for developing strict handstand push-ups. That's where we take a dumbbell, we start with it facing in, and then as we rotate up, we press. So if the dumbbell starts here regularly, we start even deeper here. So we get like an extra couple inches by rotating and dropping down. And the way the front of the shoulder here, that front delt has to lift as we come up to create that rotation, is really good for developing that bottom-up pressing strength. And the last one's going to be negative. So once we flip up on side down on the wall, you have much more contractile strength and overload on muscle tissue and tendon tissue in a negative than you do in a contraction. So lowering movements, lowering from a pull-up, lowering your squat, lowering a deadlift, or lowering on your head has more muscle and ligament tendon contractile force than pressing through the range of motion. Standing up from a squat, standing up with the deadlift, pressing up from the handstand push-ups. So negatives are really good for developing strength there. And then we get into continuing that. So prerequisite strength, we develop some strength for that. We go through and actually get some strict work. Now we talk gymnastic skills. Gymnastic skills are simply practice. I mean, that's going to be the most straightforward answer I can give you guys. When I get people to start getting toes to bars, obviously there's technique. So when it comes to technique, you work with a coach. Maybe if you guys really want it, you can find a coach to work on one-on-one with. Say, hey, can we take 30 minutes one day? We'll say, hey, it's X amount for that session, and you actually get some one-on-one time. And that's what we really recommend is for a lot of people, and this goes for all movements, but the class time is very limited to how much we can truly help people. We get 10 to 15 people in there, and it's not a personal training session, right? We do group stuff. We get group instruction. We usually get around to each person, but it's not the same as a one-on-one, right? It'll never be. And so that'd be kind of the first thing is, right, maybe you want to work a little more with the coach. But once we develop those movements, once we get you actually into the rhythm of understanding the movement, it's practice. And that's all skills. That's double unders, it's handstand walking, it's all gymnastics are skills, right? Same as snatching, Olympic lifting. A skill is typically a movement that requires balance, coordination of some sort. So within that, the only way to develop that is actually through repetition and sleep. All right. So we have to understand that, and this was the same as developing strength in general, is we don't get stronger from training. We don't. Training is what allows the nervous system to respond. It's what damages the muscle tissue, damages the tendons. It creates those micro tears and that micro damage that you eventually grow, recover from. Right, in the fitness world, there always is that you don't get stronger through training sessions, you get stronger through sleep. Once we go through a sleep cycle, that tissue is repaired. The nervous system actually starts to process and upgrade its understanding of where you're at in space, and then over time, you get better. And so a lot of gymnastic skills simply comes down to once you get a toe to bar, once you get a pull-up, once you get the handstand push-up, you need to do it every single day. Okay, and I'm not kidding, every single day you come in. If you guys are close to pull-ups, I would say you come in and you do, let's say you do 5 to 10 keeping pull-ups every single one at a time. 5 to 10, that's it. Dose it a little bit. We don't need mega dose. We don't need you sore as shit. We don't need you ripping your hands all the time. You need the mega dose every day. I'm sorry, not mega dose. You need a micro dose every single day of just a little bit so that the nervous system and that tissue remembers what you did the day before, and we can build on that. What we see a lot of times is people do toes to bars, they get skilled, then they go weeks without it, and all of a sudden they forget. And so it's as simple as that. We microdose, we get 5 to 10. Maybe as you get better, you do 3 sets of 5 kipping or 4 sets of 5, 15 to 20 pull-ups, that's all you need. Because what we're trying to do is we're trying to stimulate the nervous system, not focus too much on growing tissue, because tissue, when it comes to actually getting stronger, we do that in every session. Every week you're doing something that's getting all those contractile tissue stronger, right? Your muscles are getting stronger. So we don't need to really focus on that per se. You can with accessory movements like the strict handstand push-ups, we can throw some accessories in there to speed up the process. But once we have that and we have that strength, it's about the nervous system. It's about your body actually understanding how to do those. So that's really big, is trying to do it every single day. Okay. So from there, transition to kind of this muscle and strength idea. I think the question was kind of a joke, referring to one member's bench presses, but I'm not going to go on too much of a tangent with this, because this can really actually like blow up into like a freaking hour video when it talks about actually developing muscle and strength. You have really 2 big things. You have a training stress and you have recovery from sleep nutrition, okay? When it comes to getting strong, I've been joking with the morning that I'm going to create my own clothing line, and it's going to have all my quotes on it. And the first one I want to put on there is, if you want to lift more weight, at some point you have to lift more weight. Very often people, my opinion, pretty confident with this opinion, my opinion is people who struggle with strength, I don't ever see actually really push themselves. Now, don't be crazy offended by that. But if you guys watch somebody who's strong, when they lift, there's a certain demeanor and stress to what they put themselves through. And I think a lot of it is just like the way they're wired, the way their brain works. So they're okay pushing themselves that hard, where other people aren't. But that aside, when it comes to actually going through our sessions, now we're doing percentages right now. So don't run with this like, oh, Josh said we have to lift heavy all the time. No, percentages are important too. But when it comes to lifting heavy, you have to have a system response to your body that is saying, oh my God, I can't lift this, okay? You need to send that signal to the brain of, holy crap, we barely made that. So that way your body will in turn say, if we're gonna keep doing this to ourselves, we've gotta get stronger, okay? So that's like the most dummied down version of what happens in strength. Holy crap, this is really hard. hey body, we got to get stronger or else we're going to die. All right, that's essentially what's going on. And so in the training aspect, you've got to push hard. You've got to make the training sessions count. The metcons have to go hard, if you want to get more fit, and the strength sessions have to be taken very seriously. When you're lifting, it needs to be done with purpose and intent, even at percentages. Are you standing up with the weight, or are you standing up and firing through the weight? Are you making the most of that lift, or are you just getting through it? There's a big difference to your outcome from your training sessions based on how you approach that. And we find that people who do much better are very serious and have really good intent with their lift. They're not just going through the motion. Now, when it comes to developing strength on the recovery and food side, simple rule is you have to be in a caloric positive to develop strength. You have to be having more energy into the system than you are expending. Now, in the strength world, if you're not getting in protein to actually recover, that is the number one. Most people who are on the bottom side of the strength scale, I would assume probably are struggling to get their body weight and protein a day. And that's like the general rule in fitness, it's body weight a day. Now you can go lean body mass, there's other rules on it. I say to be safe, depending on how your gut biome handles protein and how much you digest and how much actually gets in your system, a gram per body pound is the starting point. Now, if you become a heavier person, the rules change, because if you weigh 300 pounds and you have a lot of body fat, you probably don't need 300 grams of protein. But I'm not going to get too crazy in this, okay? What I'm saying is that you need to have enough calories. So if we have the BMR on the InBody, we can do some math for your daily activity and how much calories you burn. And then we typically add that, and say you're at 3,000 calories a day, you need a minimum of 3,000 calories a day, or you're probably going to be losing muscle, losing weight, which is the opposite of getting stronger. Stronger is caloric positive, plus you have protein intake at its highest. After that, we eat all our food in a day, we have to sleep. Sleep is bar none one of the most important things to our organism for changing, whether it be cognitive changing, neurological changing, and physical, whether it be muscle, tendon, tissue, things like that changing. It happens through a sleep process. So if you are having diminished or not deep sleep, those can be huge things. So we can do things like make sure our room is blacked out, make sure we go to bed every time at the same night, make sure we wake up at the same time. That's circadian rhythms. You guys can look up a ton of research and studies on circadian rhythms and how that affects these outcomes. Do you have light in your room? Are you watching TV, or are you on your phone before bed? These are all things that I'm sure you guys have heard at this point that are bad that we still do all the time. Those things will add up. You will find people who take steps to remove those things, go to bed at the same time, have a process. I call it sleep hygiene, right? The term is sleep hygiene. I've had mine for years. I do the same thing every night, where at this time I start with X, then I go into brush my teeth, then I go into shower, then I go into bed, then I go into sleeping. And I'm the type of person that falls asleep really fast. And I say that, or I think that has a lot to do with my system that I've set up for myself. And I take sleep very importantly. I always have. I'm just a very sleep dependent person. I have to have my sleep. And so it's vitally important to me, especially with the world that we live in, with strength, fitness, and health. It should be vitally important to you as well. And if we're giving that up for other things, right, that may be fine. You might justify you don't need so much sleep, but it's going to impact your performance 100%. You just don't get away with it. That's not an area where you can be like, I hope it works. Like, it just doesn't. And you're going to probably have strength development issues. You're going to have fatigue issues. There's going to be a lot of things. You might have a high rate of injury or things, there's a lot of things that come with that. And so eating enough food, which is calories and protein, and sleep, making sure we're sleeping every night to recover. Those are two huge things for recovering from the training session, where the training session we have purpose and we go really hard and we have good intent. We have to have fun. I want you to have fun, but intent needs to go with that if you want to be serious about actually having progress in here. So that with another one, it was another week. I think this is another question. Everybody sent me joking questions, but I'll answer them. I'll try to make them serious. Gaining weight, gaining weight's another one. Gaining weight's another thing where, especially if you guys are smaller, eating becomes life. All right, and that's the hard truth to it, where you have to eat a lot, and you can't miss a day. For people who are smaller, who have trouble putting on weight and strength, it is vitally important that you guys make sure you eat all your food every day. If you miss a day, you're going to lose weight and it's going to step you back. Chris is a really good example of this. Chris and me vary greatly on this. I have no problem putting on weight. I can look at food. I'm up 10 pounds. I put, when I did my masters last year, I put on 30 pounds in 3.5 months, or I'm sorry, 40 pounds in 3.5 months. Not that was healthy, but that's how fast my body can do it. Other people will eat like crazy. Problem I see in a lot of people when they're smaller is that The second, they have a lot of body image issues, and this is something we have to address. Are you nervous about looking fat? Okay, it's a very, very real fear for a lot of people. And the second they start feeling that way, they actually stop eating. They cut out their food, and then they lose all that progress. Chris has to make sure he is eating in a caloric positive all the time. The second he stops eating, he loses weight immediately. That's the way his body is. His metabolism will just eat that. It'll eat his muscle up, and it'll eat his body fat up so fast. And so he's got to stay on top of his food. So just a little snippet on that, the gaining weight. I would say if you're really struggling to gain weight, to meet with a coach or even to work with Emily or try to find somebody to help you in that aspect would probably be really big for you, because the nutrition game, it's not an easy answer. It's so different for everybody. So trying to find something that fits your lifestyle or fit your, the way your body works is so big for that. So we've addressed handstand push-ups, some strength, developing muscle and strength, and then kind of the last thing here is going to be FOMO. We talked a little bit about this because we've talked about adding extras back in our programming. FOMO is the fear of missing out, right? I think that's a really good one because I've been trying to really harp on people this year about maturity of training. Maturity of training sadly doesn't happen until something goes wrong, right? Until you've been injured, until you've had to have forced time off, then you realize how important it is to be smart about the things you do. So where FOMO comes in is if you're not feeling well, if you're hurting, if you're busy at work or whatever it is, you didn't sleep, you still come in anyways because we have this psychological, like, I have to participate. And I'll say my piece on this being that it is not worth a training session when life is already completely stressed and not going well. All right. One of the best quotes I ever heard is, if you didn't sleep, so waking up early to train after no sleep is like stepping over $100 bills to pick up pennies. You are not getting anything from your training. You're in a complete deprivation state. Your body is not firing. Your nervous system isn't firing. And coming to train, we have to understand that stress is stress. So training stress is the same as any other stress. It's all negative in a way. Now, we do have positive endorphin releasing from training. So I think a lot of people chase that, oh, I'll feel better after I work out. And that's true. Unless you're compounding a bunch of stress on top of itself, then sooner or later, the thing that goes is you. You start to get so tired that you have no motivation, you run down, you're broken, you're starting to have joint pain and injuries. And maybe that could have all been avoided had you taken a long weekend. Maybe you take 4 days off. Okay, so to keep this quick, because I don't want a crazy long video, we're already at 17 minutes, is that if you guys are not doing well, you're having injuries, you're not sleeping well, work has been stressful, life is crazy, it is okay to miss a workout. And it's actually better to miss a workout, recover, allow all that tissue to recover, allow your nervous system to get back online, allow your happiness to, to come back up to speed a little bit. If you're a little run down, tired, and stressed, you're probably just like not as happy as you normally are. Give that a long weekend, give that a day off, and then when you come back, you're gonna be better and have better training sessions and have better yearly result than if you would have kept pushing and just done all the work, okay? And we can get into a lot more detail on that if you guys ever have questions personally about really like how to be mature with training, okay? There's a lot of times you need to scale, you need to make things, you need to make changes, and it's great to show up with your friends. I want this to be a place you want to be at every day. I want you to have fun with your friends. I want this to be that for you in your lives. But if we're not doing well and you guys have these stresses, taking a day off or taking time off and being okay missing a workout, you have to get around that, and you have to be okay with that outcome. So I hope these were kind of a couple cool questions for you guys to answer. I love doing Q&As. We've talked a little bit about trying to add a lot more of the stuff, and even maybe like some sitting down with people type things and getting questions kind of rapid fire to us and be able to answer them on the spot. I'm definitely very comfortable with that. So hopefully we'll have some more cool things for you guys in the future. And next time I put out a Q&A, I hope you guys can think of a few more questions for us to answer. So I think that answers them all. And I don't want to make this too crazy long. So you guys have a good weekend, and I will see you guys this next week.